Good evening. Merry post-Christmas and the New Year. Actually, that's not how Warlock sounded in the movie. He was more like, he talked more like this in the movie. Merry Christmas. It's just like, in Soviet Russia, Christmas celebrates you. Uh, Nosferatu. Now, those of you who have never actually seen the original Nosferatu might not even know that this is a remake of a movie. The movie is extremely old though, from like the 1920s. It's in black and white. It's silent. And it's the basis of Bram Stoker's Dracula as well. At least the overall story is. There's a lot of parallels with Bram Stoker in this, but there's also a lot of differences too. For example, in Bram Stoker, he's a lot more sophisticated. He's a lot more charming, attractive, all that. Here, not so much. But it is the Dracula story, more or less. You have I can't remember even the character's name, Thomas and Ellen, but I can't remember their last names. The Harkers in this case, they're the Harkers in this case. The newly married couple. One is a I believe he's real estate. Like he helps sell property, and he's set to go meet Orlok, and he's a vampire, and he comes and he wants his bride, and terrible things happen. There's a professor of the occult who knows more about this than anyone else, or Van Helsing type, which is the Willem Dafoe character. So it is, in many ways, the same story. But the long and short of it is, if you saw my out of the theater reaction, then you know what I generally thought about it. I thought it was a good movie. I did think it was a good movie. I do think there are problems with the movie, and it's not perfect, but on the whole, I liked it. Let's start with the things I did like, which I think is the stuff that outweighs the negative. If nothing else, this movie captures tone and atmosphere to a T. It is gothic. It is drenched in that gothic atmosphere, that gothic nature, that gothic tone. It feels drab and depressing, yet weirdly beautiful at the same time. There are some shots in here I would love to have like framed. There's a scene of Nicholas Hoult walking down a road at night in a forest. And first off, I'm like, look, I gotta get to the castle, dude, but in that country, at night, in that woods, oh, you're wolf bait at that point. You're bear bait at that point. Excuse me. But there's a shot, and it's just so like beautifully haunting. That's the best way. But this movie looks good, and it looks of the time, 1800s Germany, in that general area. It looks of the time. It's particularly like the city and the landscape. It is good or great to look at. Well, I actually got to find the budget on this, because it didn't look like an overly. I mean, it looked like there was some money put into it, but I don't think it was like overly expensive. Okay, I'm getting north of 50 million. That definitely sounds about right. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find it closer to the actual budget. Right now, I got north of 50. I'm getting right. Let's just say 50. Let's just say 50 for right now. That's the proposed budget. That stands about right. And for what they were able to do at $50 million, this is take some notes, other screenings, other movies. You can do a lot with not as much. Take note, Craven. Madam Web, you can do a lot more than anyway. Don't worry, we'll talk more about those when we do the worst list next week. But spoilers. But I think anyone could have picked. It hasn't been that bad a year for movies. It's actually been a pretty solid year. But there's been some stinkers. This is not a stinker, though. So yeah, it's dripping with atmosphere, that gothic nature. The acting is all really good. I heard someone whose opinion I really trust say that Lily Rose Depp, who is the main actress in this movie, was miscast. I don't think she was miscast. I think the script let her down in some areas. And the director, who Edgar Wright is a great director, but I do think his directing of her line delivery let her down in some spots. There are times where where I believe what she's saying. She seems very much like this lost child in many ways, this lost woman, but you believe her love she has for her husband. But then, as he did correctly point out, there's a scene, And it is a lengthy, it's like a lengthy scene, like at least 7 minutes long, between her and Holt, where she kind of goes a little mad, and that's a plot point that she's kind of off and on going mad, and there's a reason for it, which we'll talk about when we get more into the things I'm not as big a fan of. That's then like the line delivery, and some of it's good. And her facial acting is good, and presuming they didn't have to do much, and they had to do some stuff, obviously, with like CGI for it, but otherwise, like, her facial acting is great. But otherwise, like, it just goes into this weird scene involving them making love, but for certain reason, like, it's just weird. So for the actors and actresses who maybe struggled in this movie, I think is a better way to put it, and Lily Rose Depp is probably the one who struggles the most. That's not her fault, and I don't think she was miscast. I think she fits the area. I think she fits the tone of the movie just fine. I think the script for her character, the lines of her character, the delivery of her character, the direction of her character, maybe was hindered. But everyone else, Aaron Taylor Johnson's good. It's definitely better than Craven, but he's good. He plays a friend to them, and his wife and kids are fine. Nicholas Hoult is great. Nicholas Holt's kind of really making a name for himself. I like him just about everything I see him in. I have not seen him give a bad performance. I've seen movies he's been in that aren't great, but I have not seen him give a bad performance. And now he's going to be Lex Luthor in Leap. And just this stuff we got of that trailer of him as Lex, I'm looking forward to that. So that's good. Willem Dafoe is delightfully quirky. Everyone got a lot. He's the guy who got like there aren't a lot of laughs, but when they are, they're from Willem Dafoe. It's like, just like schnapps. Just kind of got everyone to chuckle in the theater. Which, by the by, before I continue, this was the most filled up I've seen a theater I've gone to in a long time, and I mean a long time. Even Deadpool and Wolverine was not as filled up today as this film was. Now, granted, it was Christmas, the biggest movie-going day of the year, but it still was impressive nonetheless. Excuse me. Ooh, excuse me. And then you got to talk about the stand-up. It is Bill Skarsgård as Orlok. They go a few different throughout. First off, obviously now we're in a talkie versus a silent film, so he's going to talk in this version. And he, like I said, he's got these deep, slow, methodical way of cadence to him. He talks like, and then he also talks in like his native language. Like the design of Orlok, they do hide Orlok for a little bit. Like, we don't truly see him until oh god, the movie's like 2 hours and 15 minutes long, or 13 minutes long. I don't want to say we don't really see him in his full guise or full form until at least the 40-minute mark. We still, like, he's in the movie and we do see him, but we don't like see his full like face or design, whatever, for a little while in the movie. But then after we do see it, we see it quite often, and he is creepy. Like, even Nosferatu, the original Nosferatu, which you can just look it up and see, he's still got the long face, the pointed ear, but they do a bit more with design. Like, he's got hair in this version. He's got the Vlad the Impaler stash going, the Vlad Tepes stash going. And you need to understand, this is not Dracula. This is not Vlad Tepes. This is Count Orlok. There is a difference. Because Dracula just looks human with an otherworldly nature. This Orlok is like a walking corpse. There's like, he's missing skin. He's like, some of his hair's gone. He literally has like maggots and stuff on him. And when he like does people in, or let me phrase this. When he's feeding on people, because like as a vampire movie, we see he's like drinks people's blood. He doesn't do it in traditional, I'll bite your neck, drink your blood. I mean, he does rip a throat at her too, but no, he does it in a much weirder way. And when there's literally a scene where he's feeding on someone, and it's like lingering on it for like 10 seconds. And it's just unsettling because of where he's biting them, how it sounds. It's just unsettling. It really is. And he is just creepy. He's honestly, he is terrifying. There is a scene where people die, and I went like, we're doing this, and then the door opens, and you don't see the entirety of what happened, but you do see half of what happens. Because it's like you hear screams of someone. I'm not gonna give too much away, but you hear screams of someone, and someone rushes to a door to go to them, and you don't. And there was like, and you don't see one person die, but you kind of see the other one, and it's like, well, this is just horrifying. Thank you, movie. Because it's not like I'm not having night terrors already tonight. Holy crap! So yeah, it's they do a lot with him. He is kind of the stand of the movie. Now with all that being said, it's not perfect. For 2 hours and 13 minutes, it felt it. It takes its time at points. It really does. And I'm not saying it isn't paced well. It just feels long. Now, you can maybe argue what that has to do with pacing, and maybe it does, but I feel like the scenes are working fine. I just feel like scenes just take too long sometimes. Like, there's scenes where we're just focusing on nothing sometimes, going from, like, building to building. And they do this thing where when you're, like, seeing a transition walking through a corridor, for example, you'll, like, see the camera go through the wall or the ceiling or the door frame, and they continue to what's on the other side of that as the shot's tracking. I'm like, interesting. We probably could have done with less of that to tighten this up just a little bit. Like I said, there's a scene involving Lily Rose Depp. The character of Ellen, played by Lily Rose Depp, they decide to do more with her than just what's in the original movie, and that's fine. With a remake or a reboot, you're entitled to make changes. I'm just not 100% sure these changes work. Because without giving too much away, they imply that they don't even imply. They say she's had she's has a natural inclination towards the supernatural. I'll leave it at that. And there's actually a history with her and Orlok beyond what we get in the movie, which ultimately leads towards the end of the movie. And again, not giving anything away, it does technically end the same way the other one does, but the reasoning behind it doesn't make a lick of sense. Because I can't give too much away without spoiling. They added more lore to this movie that frankly just doesn't need to be that's not needed. That's not needed. And it kind of makes things stupid and like you question things more by comparison. Because there is something to do with her and Orlok that allegedly allows him to die. But when you actually think about, in hindsight, what's going on, that's not really what happens. Like, it has nothing to do... One thing has nothing to do with the other thing. So, like, it's like, why did you add this? This makes no sense. It's stupid. Yes, damn it. Stop being stupid. Or am I being rhetorical? No, you're not! God, movie. It's like you're just adding words to sound smart. Well, now you're being transcendent. Little Team 4-star for you. But yeah, it's like they just added stuff for lore purposes that some of it's kind of fine, cool, particularly like the early stuff. But then when we get towards like how to defeat him, like, why does that makes no sense? And why did you add this backstory in for her when it really wasn't needed? Like, you could have... honestly, you could have just had a connection with her and Orlok without the other stuff you added for her as well. And it still probably wouldn't have been perfect, but it would have worked better than what I thought they had. So, yeah, on the whole, I found that a bit of an issue, but not anything like truly distracting. Just when the movie ended, I'm like, I feel a little empty right now. Like, I don't feel depressed, right? It's just like, is that really what we're ending on? This weird, like, you get the imagery they're ending on is kind of artistic, symbolic, poetic, whatever you want to go with, but yeah, I could have done without it. But overall, and there was like one scene in the movie where the effects on like some torches, I'm like, oh, that's CGI. Otherwise, it's like it's pretty solid. But there's overall, it's not a bad movie at all. I like the movie. I enjoyed the movie. It's also now not a movie though I think I'll be seeing again anytime soon. Maybe someday again, but I'm not gonna rush back to the theaters. I don't even see myself really watching it if it's like on TV, like HBO or something. So yeah, overall I liked it, but I'm good on the one view. Like this is similar to like the Joker for me, the original, the first Joker, where I acknowledge everything I watched was really well done. I liked aspects of it, certainly, but it just ultimately wasn't a movie that was for me. This is like a lesser version of that where I actually did like the movie. It's just I'm good on the one time. Let's see here. And then trailers. We're now into 2025 trailers. Got Wolfman again. I am very curious about Wolfman because I'm curious if that Bridget Death Guard is really what the werewolf design's ultimately going to be. I'm really curious on that. Novocaine. I didn't. Huey from the Boys. Story about a guy who can't feel pain, who becomes a reluctant action hero. And he's just this weird nerdy guy, kind of like weird dweeby guy. I can dig it. Also, The Amateur with Rami Malek and Lawrence Fishburne, Pierce Brosnan. That looks interesting. Guy basically works for the CIA. His wife gets killed. He goes for revenge. Realizes he can't do it, but realizes he has other skills to get the job done. So I'm down. I mean, I'm down for that as well. What other ones do we get? If I can remember everything. Companion again. Ironically, starring the same guy from Novocaine. Companion, we got that one again. That one about the troops in, I want to say, Iraq or something like that, in the Middle East. So that's another one. I can't remember exactly which trailer movie name that was. No, I'm sure there was like another one that I'm forgetting it. Otherwise, that's my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll be back with who would win in Zanpakuto. I've got the day out tomorrow, so I'm going to probably try to see Complete Unknown. Otherwise, it'll just be who would win tomorrow. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.